And we're live. What's good, Ohio Cannabis Report family? It's your boy, your host, the founder of Ohio Cannabis Report, Gerald Moore Jr. Back with another live episode and some updates. I know it's been a minute since we went live or gone live on YouTube, but we got an update for you guys today with the homie Dan, the CannaMan. Dan has been on the ground doing a lot of different work in the cannabis space in Ohio. So we're going to have him on today. I'm about to send him this link right now. And so we can get his insights on what's been going on in his neck of the woods in Ohio. But make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys like the channel, follow, comment, do all that good stuff. Make sure you're following us on all of our other social media platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, Substack, LinkedIn. Need to get some more Reddit, but we're on Threads. I think I said, did I say Instagram? Instagram. So be sure to follow us. Be sure to comment. Let us know what's going on in your city. If you guys have a moratorium, there's still a lot of cities that have moratoriums, and that's what we're going to talk to Dan the CannaMan about, because he's in a city that he is working on lifting the cannabis moratorium, because there are still cities that aren't allowing cannabis dispensaries in their cities. So again, Ohio is a big state. There's a lot going on. Ohio is very gerrymandered. So, every city, every county is a bit different. There's 11.8 million people in the state of Ohio. So, again, what's happening in Columbus may not be happening in Toledo, may not be happening in Akron, may not be happening in some of these smaller towns. So we are going to see what Dan, the CannaMan, has for us. While we are waiting for him to join the chat, I'm actually going to look up Ohio cannabis moratoriums and see if I can find the list of moratoriums. Share my screen. So this is some research by the Morris College of Law at Ohio State. Local moratoriums for Ohio adult use marijuana operators. Like most other states that have legalized cannabis for recreational use, Ohio allows local jurisdictions to enact ordinances to prohibit or limit the operation of adult use cannabis businesses within their boundaries, although they may not prohibit the operation of existing medical cannabis operators that are already located within their jurisdiction. This resource provides more details about the moratoriums, their purposes and intents, and what localities should consider as Ohio implements its legal cannabis market. Looks like I got my guy Dan on the chat, so I'm going to bring him in. Let me get this off the screen real quick.
What's up, Gerald? How are you, man?
Guy, Dan the CannaMan, we are here
Hey.
live. We're going good, man. You know how it goes. Another day in Ohio, fighting for the rights of the people,
Yes,
educating the
sir.
people. So it's a good day, man. It was a beautiful day today. My kids are back in school, so I'm back to being busy per
Oh, for
usual. So,
sure.
but yeah, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it. Glad we get to reconnect on the podcast as usual on the show. Go ahead and let the people know who you are, what you're talking about, what you do, and we'll get into our
Yeah.
conversation.
Yes, sir. So I'm Dan the CannaMan. I'm an activist in Ohio. I use cannabis as medicine, been using cannabis for the past 13 years. Passionate about cannabis because it has helped me quit drinking, helped me quit benzodiazepines, and it's helped me quit, a myriad of other substances that I was trying in between that as well, just to numb myself. Cannabis actually has helped me, turn the lens back toward myself and, fix on fix or work on fixing the root causes as to what was causing my issues. So I'm a big proponent for it. I don't think people should be arrested for it. I don't think people should be prosecuted for it, especially since it's non-lethal plant medicine. I think that, as a society, we should look at cannabis as the same way as we do caffeine, to be quite honest with you. I mean, maybe with a little bit less stigma or caution. Um,
Lettuce, herbs, tomatoes.
exactly. Lettuce, herbs, tomatoes, vegetables, anything you use to nourish your body or better your health with, I think cannabis should be viewed in that same light. Um, so that's why I'm on here. Currently, I'm working in Lancaster to overturn the moratorium against cannabis. Do have some traction going on there. They are considering overturning it. The next meeting is going to be on October 16th at 12:30 p.m. on the second floor of City Hall in the 1897 conference room. That's on a Friday, so if anybody else can make it who lives in Lancaster, that's where I'll be on that day. Health willing. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. That's why I stick up for cannabis rights. I've lost a lot of family relationships and as well as additional, like, I've lost a fiance over my outspokenness toward cannabis, and I also don't think that should happen as well. So, I want to normalize it in society so people don't fight over it anymore as
Right.
well. Like, I feel like it's ridiculous that we're fighting over a non-lethal substance when we have so many bigger fish to fry. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate that, man. And I mean, we definitely understand. And I think that's one of the biggest things about our community, right? Is, it's not just us as humans being misunderstood, right? It's the plant, it's nature, right? Like we get to the point where it's like, how is nature bad? Right? How is wanting to heal yourself, take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? How is that bad? Because we live in a society that has demonized a plant and demonized those that have decided to use it. But we won't demonize opioids, right? We won't demonize the doctors that constantly prescribe it. We don't demonize the alcoholics or the alcohol companies, the food companies, the politicians that clearly go against the greater good of the people, but we're willing to, sacrifice individuals who want to do better. So, man, we appreciate you for all that you do in the cannabis community and using your voice and your story to speak out. It's
Thank you.
obviously very commendable, and I mean, it's vulnerable, right? We've kind of both been in the same situation in terms of being public at the state house, being public digitally on the internet and social media. So obviously, it carries a lot of weight with it. Losing family members behind it without people even asking you, your story. So, man, we appreciate you doing what you do, and that's why we support you, and we're thankful that you support everything going on at Ohio Cannabis Report. So
Oh,
just,
100%. I
I mean, let
appreciate
the
Ohio Cannabis Report too. Sorry about that. I wanted to throw that in
no,
there
no, no,
though, because
you are good.
you're a big part of my advocacy, Gerald, and I would be lying if I didn't say that. Like you, Eric Whitehead, and like a couple other people that have been speaking up
Yeah, yeah.
consistently or had been inspired me to go and speak up for the first time. So I wanted to, thank you for that as well personally.
Yeah, for sure, man. We appreciate it. And that's why, I mean, that was one of the reasons, honestly, that I started Ohio Cannabis Report. Being that I am a public figure, I guess, because of my background and who I'm married to. But I also realized that somebody got to take the jump. Somebody got to take the leap. Somebody got to be willing to speak up for especially our most vulnerable population, right? And so being a black man, I know what our community has dealt with the war on drugs, with being demonized. I mean, being a high profile athlete, I was always told that weed is bad. Weed will make you not a good athlete. Weed will make you a stoner and lazy. You won't be able to go to college and graduate and do all the things. And I've done everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, about everything that you guys say over here, but from personal lived experience, this is what cannabis has done for my life, and I just want to
Right.
help. I just want to help people. So again, it's tough, right? But again, when your heart is in the right place, your intentions are right, your purpose. At the end of the day, if people can't rock with you, it's better that people fall off, and then you get into alignment with who's meant to be on your journey. So let the people know what's been going on in Ohio, man. Obviously, it's crazy in Ohio. We got a lot going on. You got the whole Trump world. You got data centers. You got poverty, you got homelessness, you got all types of things. But cannabis, I believe, sits at the intersection of a lot of our social issues. Um, what was it about speaking up, or maybe not speaking up at first, that you saw maybe was scary, or prevents people from speaking up? What do you think like prevents people that are in cannabis or use cannabis from speaking up?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's a great question. Honestly, I think the first and foremost thing is they're worried about losing their jobs. They're worried
Hmm.
about their employer targeting them negatively. They're worried about, how their family is going to view them, or how their friends, or how other people in society are going to view them. I think that,
Hmm.
it's optics more so than anything. I mean,
Hmm.
that was it for me for a long time. And
Right.
then when they started, doing this really unjust stuff with Senate Bill 56 and almost like laughing in our faces, I got fed up enough, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna put everything on the line. I'm
Hmm.
gonna go and speak up, because I have rights as a human, as an American, and
Hmm.
every one of us do as well. And I think a lot of us forget that, and we get lost in like the optics of things instead of doing what's right. And
Right.
I just felt it was the right thing to do, and I still do think it's the right thing to do because,
Hmm.
like you said, we got people being disproportionately, you know, criminalized for it. Like, it depends on your privilege whether or not you're going to be criminalized for cannabis, and that's,
Hmm.
messed up in and of itself. That should
Right.
never be that way. And the fact that we have society operating in that way is abhorrent. I mean, we live in one of the freest countries on earth, but it's really not that free when you think about it. So, we gotta be the changing voice to speak up about it.
For sure.
So yeah, that's what inspired me, honestly, just the, unjustness of it. And, you know, what stopped me from speaking out in the beginning was, just worried about how I was going to be viewed. But at one point, like, speaking up and standing up for others outweighed the the negative like optics that I thought I was going to get. And honestly, when I spoke up, I actually got like a thank you from a lot of people I didn't think I would get a thank you from,
Hmm.
even those like some of them in the corporate world. And like it honestly surprised me. And I'm grateful to continue to be a voice at
Right.
this point.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. Like you said, you lost people, but you also gained people, right? I think
Exactly.
and that's the beautiful thing about the cannabis community. I mean, we are diverse, we are expansive. There's no there's no lines, right? You got corporate, you got poor people, homeless people, you got lawyers, doctors, engineers, administrators, directors, entrepreneurs. So there's tons of people, athletes, entertainers, and so unfortunately, we have this design in America that says cannabis is bad, and Ohio still seems to be pushing that narrative, right? With some of the laws that we have, with SB 56, and so in
Scary.
in your experience, I mean, we've had medical for about 6 years. We've had adult use. The law has been in place for about 3 years, but we've only actually had adult use for what, almost 2 years.
Yep.
So, how do you feel like the cannabis industry in Ohio has grown, evolved? Where do you see it going? Where would you like to see cannabis going in the state of Ohio? Let's say in the next 1 to 5 years.
Great question. So I think, it's growing slowly but surely. I think that, we're starting to open our minds up to different products. I think, one of these companies just got Sabia going. I do think that a lot of it is ran like a monopoly, unfortunately, and I don't like to see that. It kind of disgusts me about, how these big companies can, basically come in, buy out their competition, and then just, change the law to benefit them further.
Right.
Um, I don't like how high the prices are still. I think that, as a state, we need to work on that. And I also think that, with the quality of the products too, I think, there's a stark difference between what you get in a dispensary and what you would get from a craft grower.
Right.
I think that, Ohio needs to implement and partner with some of these big companies need to partner with these craft growers and white label product, and process it the way it's processed by the craft growers. So, the people that go to dispensaries and are looking for that product can actually find it instead of something that is either over dried or, processed in a way that, doesn't resemble real wet rosin, like what that
Mm-hmm.
actually does look like with the terpene layer and the homogenization.
Mm-hmm.
So what I am seeing right now is, I'm seeing prices come down, across the board, but I'm not seeing what we typically see, on the menus in Michigan or other states where, an RSO syringe is like $15. Here, an
Right.
RSO syringe is 40.
Mm-hmm.
That's $25 more. And if you don't have that extra $25, you might be deciding whether you're going to eat or you're going to medicate that night.
Right.
Um, so I think, what we can do in Ohio and what I think we should do in Ohio is, open the market up a little bit more to, extend an olive branch out to these smaller craft growers so they can, at least white label their product to dispensaries if they want to and get paid for that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that in addition to that, we need to stop with like the strict guidelines on who can participate and who can't by lowering the price of, an application fee. I think
Mm-hmm.
that the application fee for a dispensary or for processing or our operators is astronomically high. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're not saving for 20, 30 years and investing your whole life savings into it for a chance to, get picked by the lottery, you don't have a shot at all. So
Right.
I would like to see the market change for the consumer and for small businesses. That's, at the end of the day, consumers and small businesses and craft growers are who built this market. They're the reason why these big MSOs can even participate in the market. They're the people that went out and voted to, legalize cannabis both medically and recreationally. And I think that, the least we can do is pay it back to them by giving them an opportunity to
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah, and that's what's unfortunate, obviously, about SB 56, right? I mean, the law that we voted in was had tier three, had craft grow in the bill, but that was one of the first things that was gutted from the bill, and also, obviously capping home grow, um, capping or gutting the hemp bill. Um, Public consumption, transportation of cannabis. They lowered the
That's crazy. That part is crazy. The transportation, yeah.
yeah, yep. So lowering the THC level in certain products, but also again, it's a limited license industry too, right? So there's not even licenses available. They capped dispensaries at 400, I believe. So we're at a state or we're at a point where something has to give, right? Something has to change. They gutted social equity, and so 36% of the 10% excise tax that was supposed to go back to those communities most harmed by the war on drugs obviously don't get access into the industry. A lot of those people went to hemp instead, and so they're just in the hemp market. And so let the people know too, like as somebody that has dealt with some of the things that you've dealt with, and obviously we live in a state that just had a lawsuit with the opioid companies. How have you seen like a difference in your life? I know you think you've shared this before, but how have you seen a difference in your life when you were on those other substances versus cannabis?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And honestly, there's a big contrast there. So when I'm on different, like when I was on benzodiazepines, when I was on these other different antidepressants, um, I mostly would see a brief improvement, but then I would stabilize out for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, and the antidepressants would stop working. I would end up taking more of the benzos to feel the anxiety melt away because they would stop working after a while. And what happened was I just built up a massive tolerance to that,
Mm-hmm.
and it just ended up taking me out to the point to where I was just sleeping for days at a time. With cannabis, I was able to stop that stuff and just focus on life, focus on cannabis when I needed it. When I needed to feel medicated or needed to feel better, I would use cannabis. And it didn't knock me out in the same way that those benzodiazepines that did.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to function, focus, and my I feel like my attention span gets sharper too when I use cannabis. I'm more alert. My senses are more heightened.
Unlike what they tell us, though, right? Because I mean, I mean, how they tell us, oh, you're gonna be lazy.
You gotta be
You're not,
nodding out.
yeah, you're not gonna be. Yeah, I'm like, I smoke weed and go to work out. I smoke weed and get creative. I do my emails. I go play with my kids. Like I clean dishes. Like I've never smoked weed, and like these people that be on the side of the street and they just be standing up like this. Yeah, I'm like, I ain't never had nothing like that. So
Exactly. That's fentanyl, unfortunately, too.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So and it's sad because again, it's essentially us versus them, right? And
Hmm.
who is them? Them is the big corporations, our politicians, big business. You got obviously alcohol. You have all these corporations, and then now you have these big MSO companies that would rather keep the small guys out and sell bad weed or boof weed, and take all the money and run with it, and keep other people out. So it's important that one we advocate not only for ourselves but our communities, small business, and we support those businesses. What is something that you see or something that you think can be done in local communities? I think because you've been working at a very localized level. Obviously, we have the state, we have counties, and then we have cities, and we have all these moratoriums. How do you think more people can be engaged in this cannabis fight in their local communities? Like, tell people how you have done it, right? Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people feel like oh, I went out to vote, they turned they changed the law, and so I just give up, right?
What
Um,
now? Yep.
right, and so it's just, oh, we just the politicians are going to do what they're going to do, and we just got to sit back and take it. But that's not true, right? I mean, there's ways to activate, there's ways to engage, there's ways to galvanize community members to speak up. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have in the cannabis space is that a lot of cannabis folks, because most of us are still on the legacy market technically, right? We got friends that I'd rather go buy from or donate from friends that are on the legacy market than actually go support the dispensaries. So how do you think we can get more people engaged at that local level in like a Lancaster or some of these small towns to go speak up? What is something that you did to get that activated?
Great question. So what I did was I ended up looking up Lancaster City Council meetings. I ended up
Mm,
finding out when those were. Ended up attending a city council meeting. They weren't even discussing the moratorium that night. What I did
mm,
was I submitted my name for like an interested party testimony, and I just got
mhm,
up there and I said, I'm a resident of Lancaster. I live out here. I think that the moratorium against cannabis is egregious. We already have voted on it. I looked up the voting stats, and I think 50.46, it passed by a very thin margin in my area, but it still passed. Like people
yeah,
still voted to have it.
right,
And, I said, you know, the the personal will of your legislator should never overturn the will of thousands of people who go out, pay your salary and vote
right,
for you to serve us.
right,
And ever since then, I went back and I sat down, and there was this one lady who like gave me the law director's information. She was just a citizen who happened to know who the law director was. And then after that, the mayor and then the assistant, the law director's assistant, came up to me, shook my hand, and like thanked me for testifying and all of that. And like that's how I built that relationship. From there, I just started emailing. I did get a lot of pushback, but I just kept emailing. I kept opening myself up for in-person meetings. I sent sources that backed up, what I was saying in my emails about how, cannabis has caused 0 deaths, alcohol causes 178,000 American deaths yearly, tobacco causes 400,000, kratom causes 50 to 100 deaths by overdose yearly, and cannabis causes 0, but yet we're focusing on that when we have tobacco, kratom, and alcohol shops on our street corners. And I framed it in such a way like it's not even like it's not a political issue anymore, right? It's a public health issue. As
hmm,
somebody who's been robbed in the legacy market, as somebody who's been, criminalized by cops, as somebody who's been, who's lost legitimate job opportunities over this, I think, it's important that when the people vote and the people want to decriminalize something and legalize something so it makes people's lives better and
hmm.
stops all of what happened to me and millions of others, thousands of others from happening, I think they should be listened to. And, that's what got me involved. I'm still trying to get the community involved now. I don't know if anybody showed up to the last hearing or not. I'm basically like the only one who has been showing up to the hearings about cannabis, but that's what it takes. Like if you're passionate about cannabis and if you care about the plant, I know like a lot of people say they do online, but they don't go speak up. Start speaking up. Like that's what we need right now. We don't need a bunch of people flexing their egos online. We need people to actually take action.
For
And what
sure.
you can do to find out, if there's a moratorium in your area is just look up your county or the city that you live in and see what the cannabis laws are. You can look up the meeting notes
Or you
from.
can go to this page what I was just showing people,
Yep,
Ohio State Morris College of Law, and they have literally this is a map of the moratoriums. Active moratoriums are the green, moratoriums no longer active, and so it literally shows you. It's not a. I think they may have a
making some
list too.
progress.
Yeah,
We
definitely
are
making
making
some
some
progress.
progress. Yeah, and like, another big thing to touch on too is the tax money, right? Like the tax money that these cities are going to gain if they just lift the moratorium is something that they can use to either fix the homeless issues, educate,
Jobs,
yep,
workforce
jobs,
development, economic development,
all of that. Yes, yes.
and we
And
haven't
educate, yep,
and we haven't seen an uptick in crime. And I think that was one of the biggest things. Oh, cannabis, it's going to increase crime, and we haven't seen an increase in crime where cannabis dispensaries are. We've actually
exactly.
seen a decrease in crime. We've seen a decrease in a lot of other things that are typically related to, or they try to relate to cannabis. So
I agree with that as well. And I think that, what increases crime is prohibition of cannabis because if you think about it, when you go to the legacy market and you buy cannabis from somebody that you don't know well, like some of them might have multiple substances on hand, not just cannabis, other substances that can hurt you. And that's not everybody who does that, but some people do that. Like they're just
for sure.
trapping everything. And
Well, and
you know,
again, why are people
yeah,
doing that though, too, right? Like people are out here trying to hustle to make a buck. You know
mm-hmm,
what I mean? So it's like, why do people trap alcohol? Why do people trap anything? Why do people trap um EBT cards? You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a poverty issue, right?
exactly, yep,
Typically people typically in the cannabis space, I know all of my legacy people. So I know people that love the plant, that are going to pay extra care to the plant. But typically those type of people, if it's a sketchy situation, that typically comes out of poverty, comes out of greed. I mean, and even in the legit market, right? We're seeing issues with remediated substances. We're seeing, moldy weed, outdated weed, poorly cured weed. And you don't even get to smell it. You don't really get to see it when you buy it. So yeah, there's a lot, that we say, well, the legacy market. We don't call white collar criminals out all day, even though we know our state is run by white collar criminals right now. Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I mean, I think it's important to always know who you are purchasing from. I think that's a big thing. I think obviously a lot of people are going to the dispensaries too because it's just easier, right? If you're going to a plug, he might not be available when you're ready. But the dispensaries, I mean, I know the dispensary next to me is open until 10:45 p.m.
So
So,
nice.
with the drive through, right? And
Hell
so
yeah.
it's like, well, that's a lot easier than saying, oh, I hit the plug up, he ain't hit me back for 4 hours. Well, I was ready to purchase, right? So it makes it way more convenient. It's like food. I'm hungry now. I want to go get McDonald's. I want to go. So it definitely makes it easier. But unfortunately, we're not allowing everybody to participate in the wealth generation and the opportunities. Bud tenders are underpaid, overworked. And then there's not a lot of education outside of the dispensaries. You got to go to the dispensary to get educated. And then they're really just trying to sell you their product. And so we have to do a lot more education. I think we need more community development outside. A lot of the events are just smoking events, right? We need more conversations, kind of like the social equity forum that I hosted, that you came to. I appreciate you supporting that. Um,
A great expo, by the way.
what are some other things that I guess you like about what's going on in Ohio with the cannabis community? I know you've been very involved in a lot of different things, but what are some of the things the positives that you've seen?
Yeah, 100%. So people treat each other like family. The
Mhm.
cannabis community is a very tight-knit community. They have each other's backs. I feel as though, when I go out to events, even if like you might have a bad mood going into the event, you're gonna leave the event in a good mood.
Mhm.
I've noticed a lot of positives from just legalization as well. Like, these big MSOs that are, committing these crimes, fortunately they're getting caught now, right? Like they're getting sued by the state and being held accountable, and that's what we need more of.
Mhm.
So I see a lot of people being able to go to a space that's regulated and, you know, get their medicine so they can heal.
Mhm.
And that means a lot to me, as somebody who's, you know, before I'll be honest, I've bought cannabis from people I've never even met before. That just I've met through an acquaintance, a friend of a friend, and I never knew if I could, really like it was it sprayed with something or not. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
going to a dispensary, I know what's in it. There's a label. I have that extra peace of mind. So,
Mhm.
those are the positives for me. And outside of the dispensaries, like these community events that I go to, I don't see any drama at them. I see people being peaceful and consuming and that's not typically what you see at bars or stuff like that. And it's good to see that because people now have an alternative choice as opposed to getting drunk, as opposed to doing other substances. They can do a substance that is, very mild in terms of side effects and, not have to worry about a ton of risk.
Right.
Uh, so those are the positives for me. Additionally, like cannabis is driving down our drinking population. It's also getting, having people be more involved in their healthcare as well as like concerned about what they're putting into their bodies, which I think is great.
Mhm.
And I think cannabis is doing that because from my personal experience, like, it's basically been a mirror for me. It's
Yeah.
turned my ego back on itself. It's helped me like metacognitize my thoughts and like realize when something was wrong. And I'll be honest with you, like this past week, um, I was not having the greatest time in life. I was panicking every day, and cannabis actually helped me realize, like, hey, you might actually need to go get help for this. Maybe
Mhm.
this is something that you can't do on your own. And I
Mhm.
directly attribute that to cannabis because if I to would to try to drink through that, I would
Yeah.
probably still be drinking today. So a lot of positives. There are some negatives, but at the end of the day, like the negatives are mostly administrative and clerical. No, they all are pretty
Yeah.
much, right? Like, um, I I don't have to, worry about anything like, shiesty going on or anything anymore,
Mhm.
which is nice.
For sure.
It so and in addition to that, like cannabis is getting painted in a better light now that we're seeing like the actual like like risks of it and the actual
Mhm.
benefits, and we're studying those. We're getting more like a clearer picture, and I think you know as time passes, we need to stay on that and keep demanding for unbiased science.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the positives that I've been seeing, more recently, and I will say legalization, I think, is a positive thing overall. I think everywhere should have legal cannabis. If we can have legal alcohol pretty much available worldwide, we should have cannabis available worldwide in every country.
Mhm.
I don't see why, we're continuing to make innocent people suffer or, try a myriad of different medications when, cannabis could help sustain them for a while. So,
Yeah.
or their whole lives.
Right. It's that greed. Um, so I know you are a home grower, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes, sir. I
how
grow
is
my
that?
own plants.
I mean, it's perfectly legal. So just to let you guys know, also just to do a disclaimer, none of this is healthcare information. This is not law information. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are just two normal bros, just having conversations, discussing politics, culture, society. So don't go banning us. Um, So how has that process been in learning how to grow? I know you've had some help and some support, which has been beautiful, obviously. How has that process been learning how to grow on your own?
It's been a good process, honestly. It's been an interesting process, but it's been fun. I've pretty much I'm self-taught. I've learned from YouTube videos. I've learned from friends, that I've met along the way. Um, and I've learned just from
And it's not
trying
really
different
rocket science too,
mediums.
right? It's like it's growing a plant. Put a seed in the dirt, water
Make
it.
sure the humidity's up there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
If you're indoor,
put a
yeah.
dome on it. You see a sprout, take the dome off,
Mhm.
let it breathe, put some airflow around it, not too
Right.
much. And you're good. Like it will start to, grow. And like I
Are
feel
you
like
growing
cannabis is a
indoor?
really hard thing to kill. Yes.
Okay. What
Yep,
size
I grow
tent?
indoor. 4 by 4, and I think it's about 8 foot tall. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
6 to 8 foot. I'm about 5'9", and it's like 3 feet above me.
Okay.
So, it goes up to like almost like the rafters in my basement ceiling or like
Nice.
the floor joists. So yeah, I have one of those. Well, I have two of those. I got, 3 plants in each. And that's basically how I grow. I got one veg tent and one flower tent. The flower tent has a 600 watt, bar style LED in it. And then my veg tent just has two Spider Farmer SF1000s and then like a 65 watt light. Shout out to EBTHC for that, by the way. Um, a 65 watt light for just, seed sprouting and vegging. And I don't move those lights. I know you're supposed to have them down like above the plant, like a certain level, but with the ones in my veg tent out, I'll let the seedling stretch a little bit or whatnot, and then I'll start to train it with plant spikes or plant staples. And then training it with the plant staples makes the stalk grow bigger, and it also gives you more tops, like
Okay.
more top sites, and it makes it into more of a bushy plant.
Okay.
Um,
What
so,
what strains are you growing right now?
yeah, so right now I got sour diesel, sour grape diesel, Skywalker, orange cake, slurricane, and I think another orange cake. I try to pop another Franco's lemon cheese because I try to wash it over the summer and it's not a good washer. Don't ever try to wash Franco's lemon cheese. You'll be very disappointed. But it didn't sprout, so I'll probably pop that one, next in the next couple of months here. But yeah, that's what I'm growing right now. I love orange cake. It's one of my favorites. It's like citrusy gas mixed with
Hmm.
gelato. Um,
What are your favorite terps?
Favorite
Any favorite
terps:
terps?
linalool,
Hmm.
limonene. I like some terpinolene, and I do like pinene as well. I also like ossamine as well. Like ossamine is one of those terpenes that's hard to find, but if you
Yeah.
do find it, it's almost like a candy orange.
Okay.
It's you could find it. I know Orange 43 is one of the
Hmm.
strains. I believe that has ossamine in it on the legal market. And then there was another one as well. I think it's called not orange. Oh man, I forget what it was called actually. It has orange in the name though, and I haven't seen it on the dispensary like list for a while, so I'm not even sure if they still cultivate it. But yeah, if you see any orange strains, get those because and look for the ossamine terpene. If the ossamine's not in there, it's going to be terpinolene, and it's going to be still as good, in
Okay.
my opinion. Yeah.
Nice. So you're more like on a kind of indica side of things, which makes sense. Um, what are some of your obviously on Ohio Cannabis Report we have put out a boycott list. We're not gonna we won't go over that right now, but what are some of your favorite places to if you do go to the dispensary? What are some of your favorite dispensaries? What are some of your favorite brands that you like to partake in? And then what type of what do you how do you like to consume? You like flower, edibles, tinctures, vapes?
Great question. So I like to go to Woodward. My favorite brands are obviously Woodward. I also like 100% Labs. Um,
Shout out Ace Boogie.
Shout out Ace Boogie. Pure Ohio Wellness is decent. I will say the rosin's not the best, but it does get the job done. And the only other company that I still kind of like will shop at, like that's, you know, that I try to stay away from it because it's part of OCAN, but it's Fireland Scientific. They do have salty watermelon, and
Hmm.
salty watermelon is a very therapeutic strain for me.
Okay.
So I will get that when it's on the menu.
Nice.
But yeah, like support Woodward, I believe, they are outside of OCAN. I do
I
believe.
believe so. Yeah.
And they were started by people who have been growing cannabis in Columbus since like the 90s or even before that. So it's family owned as well. And 100% Labs, please support them as well. Got a good friend, Ace Boogie, that works there, and Ace knows what he's talking about with all things cannabis. My favorite way to consume would be dabbing. But I have also consumed in edibles, tinctures, all of that before as well. I do love my edibles, especially if I'm doing hard labor.
Mm.
I remember I used to bust tables for 10 hours a day. I would literally do a whole syringe of RSO right before going into work and, bust out like I literally got compliments from management. They said they never seen somebody work so hard. And it was because, my mind was literally just zoned in on the
Flow
tables, like
state.
flow state. Exactly. That's where it put me, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, my two favorite ways are dabbing and RSO. I also like flower too. I will use flower if, I am a little bit more anxious than usual. Just because sometimes those heavy hits of the dabs can throw me off a little bit if, my anxiety is in a heightened state. Cannabis, I do believe it highlights what's going on inside. So,
Sure.
if you have a lot of anxiety or something like that, I always tend to watch my levels before I consume.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, which I think is important too, right? I mean, there's so many misconceptions, and that's why it's important to understand the plant and what terpenes, what indica, sativa, hybrid works for you. Because again, yeah, if you are overly anxious or paranoid, you're going to have certain strains that are going to trigger some of those that heighten that anxiety, right? I'm somebody, I deal with more so like social anxiety, but also like I'm kind of already a upper, so like I need something to just keep me baseline. So I've always been more so just hybrid indica, unless I'm working out or something. But I think there's a lot of newbies coming into the cannabis community too, so I think it's important. That's why conversations like this is important. That's why education is much more important than just having these cannabis events where we're just talking about weed or just selling weed, right? It's like, no, let's actually have some dialogue and discussion so we can educate. I know one of the fastest growing groups of consumers is elders and boomers. And these are the people, again, for the last 60 years, cannabis has been illegal. So
yeah,
they have pushed a lot of these things through the narratives, the propaganda, right? Just say no, dare program, this is what your brain is on drugs.
I
And
hate
so
that
that's
commercial.
why it's important for more of us to, especially, we're adults now, right? I don't know, are you a millennial? Are you
I born in mid '90s, so I
mid
don't know.
90s?
Yep.
So you might be a millennial. I was born in, yeah, you're a millennial. I was born in '89. But it's
Okay.
time for us to, again, use our power, right? Use our free
Yes.
will to, you've been doing. Go to your local city council meetings. Even if it's not on the agenda, usually most of these city council meetings have at the end of the city council, it's open to the floor, whatever you want to talk about. And put this stuff on the record. Also, go see what your legislators have voted for at the state level. We should know what our state representatives are voting for, because these people, again, represent us. Our tax dollars pay for their salaries. And so it's important as people that we use our power, right? Use our privilege. If you are a free person, you're not incarcerated, you don't have any criminal backgrounds, and even if you do, right? Like,
It
go,
doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter, right? Like, you are still a citizen of the United States, a citizen of whatever city, whatever in the state. So we have to use our power and influence to really affect change. And that was one of the biggest things, I think, in the cannabis community. What we're seeing is a lot of people are still like in fear, like, oh, I'm gonna show up to this meeting and they're gonna arrest me because I talk about smoking weed, or I come in smelling like weed and they're gonna have cops outside, right? And it's like, no, like even if you smell like weed, go talk your piece. Weed is legal. It's even though they've put these barriers, it's fully legal in the state. You know, so we have to use
Exactly.
it. We have to use our power.
And the more that, we start to normalize it and start to go out in public and start to, show people that, we're just normal everyday citizens that are motivated by cannabis and cannabis helps us feel better, the more that people are going to catch on to, oh my goodness, we've been lied to. This is horrible. Like we need to change this, right? Like,
Hmm.
and we're starting to see it, we're starting to see it a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
I will say like my own grandparents have come a long way. My grandfather, he consumes now. I never thought
Ooh.
years that he would consume. But yeah, it
Have,
helps
have
his
you sm- have
back.
you have you smoked with him yet?
Yeah, I smoked with him one time. It was a
Eh,
weird experience, it was awkward, but it was a good time. I will always have that memory, and like I am so grateful that I do have that memory with
For
him
sure.
because it was a bonding moment. We got on the same level. We laughed, played some video games,
Oh wow.
and just talked.
Right.
Like yeah, and that's what it's all about, like bonding with your family and showing them like, cannabis can provide relief. It's
Hmm.
not the devil, it's not what you've been told.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice to see, as we continue to normalize it, like older people and younger people get relief from it that, you normally wouldn't think.
Right. And it's okay to talk, right? I think a lot of things that we struggle with too in our society is that we've been built up to believe we have to be perfect, right? We've been built up, in corporate America that we got to show up and there can be no flaws. And cannabis is one of those things. It shows you like being imperfect is perfect, right? Being who you are
Exactly.
and showing up, right? How many people don't show up because they don't feel good, they're in pain, they're anxious, they're groggy, whatever. And cannabis can help you show up as yourself, right? And so I think that's why it's important to have these conversations as well, because it shows that people, like you said, did an RSO and bust your tables. I mean, shout out to all of our essential workers, because I know it's a lot of essential workers that are in the cannabis community that oftentimes are working those 10-hour shifts. They're working 50, 60 hours a week, and they don't oftentimes get the representation that they deserve. And so I think it's important, for us that do have platforms to speak up for those who may not feel like they have a voice or a platform as well. So shout out to all of our essential workers and our folks out there working hard in manufacturing facilities, warehouses, mechanics, all of those folks, man, nurses, we got people in the military, veterans, so I know there's a lot of different subsects and groups that, again, fear losing their jobs, losing opportunities. You have family, women that are afraid to speak up because obviously now, there's a initiative with the One Ohio Recovery Foundation that is pushing, they got $20 million from the Department of Cannabis Control to do a campaign around cannabis in pregnant women. Which again, it just goes right back into the same old propaganda, right? There's no true research around their causes. And also, how do you just put $20 million towards this and you haven't even educated the community on how cannabis is an alternative to opioids or alcohol? So,
And what are they doing with that money for injunctive relief for opioids?
right. Well, and exactly,
Yeah.
the state won $1 billion lawsuit, right? And this nonprofit that was founded essentially by the state, and uh, everybody working for this nonprofit is essentially handpicked by the governor and different entities. They got $500 million that is now being managed by BlackRock. That's supposed to be for opioid victims, right? And that money is not going to opioid victims. They're not even doing education. And the first campaign you do is around cannabis and pregnant women.
Non-lethal plant medicine, right? Yeah, and something that we don't even have enough studies on, like something that the studies are so mixed on, like
Right.
it can go either way depending on what study you pay attention to.
Right.
I think it's a big waste of money. It's a misappropriation of funds, to be quite honest with you. They should be focusing on the powders, the pills, the lean, all that shit that's flooding
Mm-hmm.
our communities and streets and killing our youth. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
seen so many news stories about youth dying from pressed pills made with fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even funny. But yet we're sitting here focusing on a non-lethal substance and don't putting $20 million of taxpayer money towards that when people have already, we already know most of the risks. And we already know that it's significantly less dangerous than these opioids and these powders and these other prescriptions flooding our streets. So honestly, it's like a smear campaign, to be quite honest. And what's crazy to me is like these algorithms that will try to push it down your throat too as well. I don't know if you get a lot of it, but I see a lot of it on in my algorithm, like a lot of this anti-weed propaganda. And I think it's partially because I'm an advocate, right? Like I'm always looking up different studies and stuff like that. And um always prevent cross app tracking as a random call out there. But yeah, like depending on what your phone privileges had, like you privileges you give to your phone to track of what you search, like it will,
Mm-hmm.
start to recommend like negative stuff about cannabis, which can
Yeah.
affect your psyche,
Right.
you know, low key. I honestly feel like, unfortunately, it's a form of mind control, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just my opinion. I've seen the movie Snowden, I know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, they monitor us and watch us, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't help but think like, you know, this stuff is being put in my algorithm for a reason. And sometimes like I will say like some of the negative stuff like that I see or the alarmist headlines, they will make me step back for a minute and go, whoa, that's a little alarming. But then when you look into like the actual basis of the studies and stuff like that, you'll see that they really are grasping at straws.
Yeah.
They don't have, you know, much but repeated stigma and propaganda that only some are going to listen to now, like that can't think for themselves, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more. I would say in like the last month or two, like tons of videos about cannabis and psychosis, right? That's like one of the biggest things, which again is like when you look at the numbers, is a very small percentage of people, right? And
Like
again, we're
5 out of 5,000.
right. Like we're not saying that cannabis is for everybody. I don't believe
Exactly.
I don't believe everything is for everybody. But if it's not for you, leave it alone. You know what I mean? Why are you if it's for people and people are telling you this has helped me. This has helped me get over anxiety. It's helped me get over depression. It's helped me in my daily life. It's helped me with chronic pain. It's helped me with all these things. But then, oh, well, we don't care about your personal lived experience, but I'm going to tell you what these studies have done or what, and it's like, yeah, I don't believe young people should be necessarily using cannabis, period, right? But again, you
Right.
have people that have issues that some of our youth need a CBD maybe at a young age. They need RSOs, right? I started consuming cannabis at 17 years old. I've never had any
Sick.
issues. You know what I mean? Like, and I was consuming alcohol at 17. I had hangovers. I went to the number one party school. I mean, shout out Bobcats in the country. All types of drugs, all types of alcohol. We just seen Penn State where they have literally a cocaine drug trafficking ring. You know what I mean? Like who
That
has
shit pisses me off. Yeah.
so and they're probably gonna get off, right? I know, and the pledges are definitely gonna get off because they're gonna just say they were hazing us. So the two main honchos are probably gonna get you know something, but at the end of the day, they're gonna say, well, these were good kids, they were in college, they're smart. We don't want to ruin their lives, so we're gonna give them community service, right? Like the dude's dad's a lawyer, so we know they're gonna get off. But again,
And
it's
what's
cannabis, it's a plant. We need to get back to just allow. I mean, we need farmers markets. We need places to consume safely. We need cafes or or
yes.
lounges because right
Yes.
now they're the only place that you can consume legally in the state is your home. And again, not everybody owns a home. So if
If you
you
have
live
an
in an
apartment.
apartment, there's something in your lease that could be against you consuming cannabis in your apartment. Even if you consume it outside, somebody can say, hey, this person is smoking and the smoke is getting into my house or my apartment. Can't grow, in an apartment. And so it really limits, a lot of people's accessibility to being able to healthcare, right? Like you said, public health. You can't consume in your car, even if the car's turned off, even if you're in the passenger seat, that is illegal. And so again, these are things that they rolled back, right? We had these things in our law, and then our politicians decided they knew what was best for us. So do you have any like last minute things? I don't want to keep you on too long, but you have
Oh,
any
you're
more
good, man.
last things you want to tell the people, encourage the people? How can they follow you, support your mission, and get more involved in the cannabis space?
100%, yes, sir. So what I want to tell people first and foremost is, focus on yourselves, focus on how cannabis affects you. Don't focus on these negative headlines. That's the first. Don't let those become in between you and your medicine.
Mhm.
Second, get involved, start speaking out. If you love cannabis, you love to consume it, you love to grow it, you want to grow it someday, you want to participate in the legal market, those are all 100% viable reasons why you need to get up and speak out now more than ever, because right now is how the law is being shaped for future
Yeah.
generations. Um, Another thing I want to say is, like you said, cannabis is not for everyone, but the people it does help, it tremendously helps, and we need less stigma in society around that. So, if you don't consume cannabis and you're watching this video, and you may know somebody who does consume cannabis, leave them alone. Like, don't go like nitpicking on them for the smell or whatnot. They are finding peace in this plant, and the last thing they need is um, another person yelling at them. But other than that, you could follow me on Instagram, Dan the CannaMan. I do also have a page dedicated to my home grow, and I started a website recently where I partner with like local and commercial fertilizer companies to help, bring fertilizers to growers wherever they're at. And that's called Columbuds Gardens LLC. That's on Instagram, and I also have a website, ColumbusGardensLLC.com. You could also find me on YouTube, Dan the CannaMan 420. Granted, I don't have any videos up yet, but I do plan to, make a grow series. I have content. I just gotta, edit and splice stuff together. But once I get my grow series going, definitely be on the lookout, because I do plan on dropping a video within, the next month or two. So those are all places you can find me. Find me on LinkedIn as well. Search my name. My first name is Daniel. My last name's on the screen here. I'm more than willing to help, answer any questions you may have, any curiosities that you may have about me and my personal use as well. I'm basically an open book here. I love this community. I love this plant. I believe in it, and I'll always believe in it no matter what. So, um, you know, and again, Gerald, I appreciate you having me on, sir. Seriously, I appreciate you letting me use your platform for my voice and to amplify that. And I
This is
appreciate
our platform. I created
I
this
thank
for
you,
us, for
thank
people
you.
like yourself to speak up. I didn't want to be the only voice. I don't like being the
I
only
appreciate
voice.
you being a voice, though. It inspires me, man. Keep
Yeah.
doing it. Like,
No, I appreciate that, because I definitely, trust me, I get a lot of blowback, and it's definitely been helpful to have support from all different people. I talk about race a lot, so people think like, "Oh, you racist." I don't know how I could be racist as a black man, but you know, it definitely helps when I have people like yourself and other people in the community that have been supporting me. I think we've had this platform for about 6 years, and pretty much since medical started, that's when I really started to speak my piece. And I just saw the lack of information and education around not just the plant, but policy, laws, how laws are formed, and how the whole system works. And so part of my, inspiration was just trying to help our community, right? Just be in a space where, we have a platform that we can speak openly and honest and encourage people. So I appreciate you for, taking, whatever advice, whatever inspiration, and then, starting on your own journey, man, because that was really even if I could do one person, man. So you're that one person. I know it's way more than one, but that was really my mode of like getting this platform up and running, was, get people comfortable just talking about it openly, right? Like, why are we so afraid and scared if we're free? All right, we got this whole
yeah.
we're supposed to be free, but we can't talk about weed. We can't talk, and it's
What?
legal now.
Right,
What?
right. Like, why we still have to like worry about, people like messing with us and like
Yeah.
stigmatizing us and all that. What? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like we should be able to talk about it. And that's, why I'm grateful for this platform because we need to normalize it more. And if we didn't have this platform and I don't think we would be in a position where we're at today where we can get on here and talk about it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And I'm high
Seriously.
right now.
Hell yeah. Same.
Because they
Sam,
always
I,
say, "Oh,
I lit up right before this, so I feel
you
it, man.
you can't do things how I be high my whole life."
I'm stoned at the gym. I got straight A's in college, stoned the whole semester. Like, I
Right.
mean, I passed psych with 2110. I wrote 10-page papers. And
Wow.
you
Talk
know
to
how
me.
I wrote papers? I would
I,
smoke because
right.
it would
And we ain't have Chat GPT back then.
no, you'd be running like standard deviation and shit like that, and like you need to know what you're talking about.
That's awesome, man. Well, we
Yeah.
appreciate you, man. I thank you for coming on,
Thank
and
you for
share and
having me.
sharing all that information because again, it's important. I'll make sure that I do upload some of this content to our Instagram and other platforms as well. But yeah, make sure y'all follow Dan the CannaMan on all the social medias. Connect with him, see how you can, use what he's done in your local communities. I think it's important. We talk about state level stuff, and that's big fish, right? Federal, but they start local, right? Start on your block, start in your community, start at your city council, even if it's just one council member, even if it's just one neighbor, one family member. Start where you are. If you have an Instagram platform, use it, right? Everything doesn't have to be for entertainment purposes, right? Share your story too, man. I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do, is share our testimony. And that's one of the biggest things. I mean, your testimony at the state house, I mean, we need to blow that up. And that should
Thank
be
you.
like a monument because I mean, the courage that it took for you to share that in that space. And I feel like, a lot of people can be free from a lot of these issues that they're dealing with when they realize that they're not the only one, right? A lot of times,
Exactly.
some of us, we think we're the only one, right? We feel isolated. Our family has been against it. Our significant other may be against it, and that can be a very isolating thing if you don't know where to go. So, again, thank you for being so vulnerable and being an open book and willing to share. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what really helps us heal, right? Is being able to speak our piece and heal through not only just the cannabis, but exercise, a healthy, balanced diet, and good community. So, again, thank you for tapping in with us, man. Make sure you guys follow Ohio Cannabis Report on all social media platforms or on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Threads. We're a little bit everywhere. And also be on the lookout for our next event. I'm planning to have another social equity event soon. I think I might tap Dan to be my assistant because he has been one of the
I
most
love that.
loyal people to uh, what I've been doing and trying to build this local community. So again, thank you, man, for tapping in with us, and we're going to
Thank you,
sign
Gerald.
off. Yeah,
I appreciate you, and you guys are not alone. So I want everyone to know that as well. Thank you for saying that, Gerald. You
yeah,
guys have a great night.
yep. Have a great night, everybody. Bow. So thanks to Danny, man, for really tapping in with us. We've been trying to get online for a minute and have this conversation. Danny is a great guy. He's been one of my biggest supporters and Ohio Cannabis Report's biggest supporters for a while now. So he really inspires me to keep going. It's people like him and people in the community because it does get isolating. It does get lonely. Being a big voice, sometimes, you are on an island. And so it's reaffirming when you have support from people like Danny in the community. So again, thanks to him for allowing us to have his story on our platform. If you want to come on our show, we love everybody and everybody's story, especially in the cannabis space. Even if you haven't had a good experience, I would love to hear your story and what that experience was like. If you want to be on the show, you can direct message us on our Instagram page, or you can hit us up on YouTube. You can message me on here. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook. My personal Instagram is at Gerald Moore Jr. Direct message me, or you can email us at Ohio Cannabis Report at gmail.com. I'm always looking for new stories, new people to connect with. If you're a business, especially local businesses, we're looking at doing more partnerships and sponsorships. Again, for our events, I like to do our events free, so they are open to the public. But obviously, hosting events is not free. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time, organizing, and stuff like that. And so, again, you have to pay for the space. Sometimes we get space donated, but also, you have technology, cameras, speakers, microphones. Our last event, we had DJ. I like to feed my people too. So usually we're going to have some food, even if it's just fruit, vegetable tray. I like to have some drinks. Last event, we had some App Girls Cannabis right before it was gutted from the bill. Now App Girls is back. But yeah, if you're a local business, if you are a local brand and you want to market, sponsor a segment on our show, you want to partner, collaborate, we are always looking for opportunities for people who support local communities. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss when we go live and add new content to the channel. Um, and again, peace, love, blessings. Hope you all have a great night. Peace.